Hello, everybody. We just had to wake you up with some movie intro music. I'm Tony Pollard, I'm Transportation Coordinator. If you don't know what I look like, here's a picture of me, and here's a real picture of me. You will see me around periodically. I try to get around to each feeder pattern as often as I can. If you need anything, you're more than welcome to call me at 251 370 3175. This is our personnel. Glenn Brown is our fleet manager. He handles everything to do with buses and white fleet vehicles, any of the white trucks and things like that you see running around. Our route specialists are Jacob Fields, Bernard Floyd, Elaine Whittington. She also likes to be called Helen. Devin Ward. Tony Gauchi is our South Shop Foreman. Mo Holly is our Baymanette Shop Foreman. Janelle Kelly is our Administrative Secretary. Dee Conway is our secretary. Elnora is our secretary. And then we have our mechanics, shop assistants, partsmen, and tiremen. Please get to know your mechanics as well as your route specialist. Local feeder pattern administrators. Every year there's a changeover with school administrators. Get to know your administrators. Introduce yourself. Let them see your face. They have a lot to do. It's hard to always get out there to the drivers. They should, but they have a lot to do, especially the new ones. They're kind of overwhelmed, just like a brand new teacher, just like a brand new bus driver. So you make sure you introduce yourself to them. Driver responsibilities. Every year we go over this, and it really comes down to professionalism in all interactions. You may be the one consistent person that's in the student's life. You guys have seen them at your stops. They're acting crazy. They're going mad. Imagine what that household is like. You be the calming force in that child's life. You make the difference. Parents. Many parents are very supportive, but we still have some that if we don't communicate to them in a proper way, they get agitated, they get defensive. So watch how you communicate with those type of parents. Administrators, be proactive. Do not allow issues to build up and concerns to fester. That just causes you problems in the long run. Other drivers, please be courteous and kind to your peers. Keep in mind the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. General public, perception is reality. They film everything you do. We get so many little videos in of drivers speeding, and they'll show the speed limit odometer on the car where the car's going 70 miles per hour and they can't keep up with the bus. All that, whether it's reality or not, stands out. So watch what you do. Be careful with your banter with students. You may think you can joke around with certain students, but then they go home and tell their parents, and then it makes you look like the bad person, even though that child may have been joking around with you on the bus as well. Be very patient and don't lose it. FYI, route specialists wanted me to point this out. Per state mandate, nothing can be placed in the windows. Nothing needs to cover your windshields. Nothing needs to be placed in the passenger windows. Keep those clear and free. Cell phone usage. Do not use while driving. Do not use at all unless you absolutely have to. In that case, find a safe place to pull over, and then you may use your cell phone. Same with the radios. We don't need to see you driving down the road with your radio in your hand looking like BJ and the Bear. That's an old movie for some of you young people. Bus cleanliness. Buses are to be cleaned daily by the driver or under some planned something you worked out as the driver. When I drove a bus, I had fifth graders that would pay their snack if they'd sweep out the bus daily for me. Glass in rear and windshield should be cleaned as often as necessary to ensure clear vision. Clean and fuel up buses. Sub buses need to be clean and fuel. And I know what you're thinking. Coaches never do it. Well, you be smart and you take care of what you take care of. And we, as administrators and route specialists, will do our best to communicate with the school administrators to make sure they're communicating with their coaches. We can only control what we can control. Sweep your bus and empty trash daily. It's a major state violation, and Jerome, our state Inspector can come in and shut down those buses if they're not clean. Bus incidents, accidents, and breakdowns. Check if you're in an accident or you have an incident. Check for injured students. If you're in an accident, call 911. Maybe you just had an incident where a child started throwing up and you had to stop and pull over the bus. Does that necessarily warrant calling 911? No, but if they're in a seizure mode, call 911. If you've called 911 for any reason, you are to communicate with a transportation supervisor, myself, your route specialist, or one of the shop foremen. Evacuating the bus only if it's unsafe to be on the bus. Example is a fire. Do not leave students unattended. Make a list of all students. Do not leave the scene until police or supervisor has advised you to do so. Mr. Pollard and bus shop will do that, no exceptions. The transportation office will notify schools that your bus serves. You don't have to notify the schools. We will take care of that. At no time admit fault. Discuss only with officials such as police or one of your transportation supervisors. Never release students to anyone without prior permission, and that would come directly from me or an administrator that is on scene. So basically, you are not to release students to anyone. Do not allow good Samaritans to transport students. They might have goodwill and intention. They may know the child. They may be an uncle. Do not allow them to transport the student. Mr. Pollard will notify media and superintendent, and post-accident evaluation with supervisor will be required. Any kind of accident you have, whether it's your fault or not your fault, a letter gets placed in your file and it designates if the accident was your fault or not your fault. That's for insurance purposes. On your bus, you will see a couple stickers. This is one of the stickers you will see. If you're stressed, you forget what to do, and in the case of an accident, just kind of look up, make sure you have this sticker on your bus. When you first check out your bus at the beginning of summer, make sure you have this sticker and also a sticker that shows all the numbers of contacts that you need to make with my number, your shop foreman's number, people like that. If you don't have those stickers, make sure you call the shop so they can get those on your bus. Also, make sure you have an insurance card on your bus. Don't wait 3 weeks in and say, oh, I need to check my insurance card. As soon as you get your bus from the shop, look for 3 or 4 things. Your insurance card, these stickers I've mentioned, and anything else the route specialists designate when they meet with you. Bus breakdowns. Any mechanical problems or breakdowns, call the shop. You don't need to call Mr. Pollard or any other supervisor. That's what shop foremen are for. They're going to know where to guide you and direct you. After hours, you call your south shop foreman and your north shop foreman directly. You are responsible for securing the safety of your passengers. In case of a breakdown, secure the bus in a safe location. Evacuate the bus only if the position is unsafe. And sometimes we will bring you a bus. We can't fix it on scene, so we'll bring you a bus to relocate those students to another bus. Do not leave the bus or students unattended, and do not release students to anyone. If unsure about a situation, definitely call me or one of your other supervisors. They will guide you. We're very good about monitoring the radios. I monitor every feeder pattern in both north and south shops. So someone will answer you back. Just be patient if you're calling on the radio. Suggestions for drivers. Safety first, students remain seated. Make sure you go over these type of things with your students the first day of school. Front to back, always load your students, kindergarten in the front seat, then first graders, second graders, and more older children in the back. Drive slowly on school campus. Do not pass other buses with their stop sign out. That is highlighted in red. Do not pass other buses with their stop sign out. If you're on campus and a stop sign is out, only one that can let you go around is a school administrator or a designee that waves you around. Students should not be taken back to school in the afternoon for discipline. You are to write a referral and get them home as quick as possible and turn that referral in the next day. School administrators will notify drivers of disciplinary actions taken if possible. Again, they're very busy. They may have time to let you know what they did or did not do, but if you've turned it over to them, know that they have taken over. You have said to them, I can no longer handle this. I'm giving it to you. Now that principal is going to do with it what they will. It's not up to you to make that decision of what that discipline should be. It's up to them. Turn in completed forms to the base school as necessary. Bus evacuations. We have to perform a rear and front door evacuations each year. Front door evacuations are normally performed the first semester, and rear door evacuations are normally performed the second semester. It's a state law, and it's all about safety first. Now, sanitation guidelines for 21 and 22. These have not gone away. If anything, we may be going back to full masking and everything else just like last year. So everybody needs to be aware of that. Kind of put that in the back of your mind. As of the making of this presentation, masks are not required, but be prepared. That may change quickly and a mask mandate may be put in place. Transportation, sanitation, and cleaning supplies. A spray bottle with pH7Q Dual is on every bus. 1 gallon of pH7Q Dual is placed in your storage box to refill your bottle as needed. You will be responsible for refilling your small spray bottle with the gallon jug. Now, once your gallon jug is empty, place on your driver's seat so the assigned sprayers know to refill that gallon jug. This is your responsibility. If your spray bottle is broken, make sure you report that to the shop so they can get that replaced as quick as possible. Any item that needs to be replaced, such as masks, gloves, and sanitizer, needs to be placed on the driver's seat. The guy who's assigned or the woman who's assigned to spraying your bus will not know that something needs to be replaced if it's not placed on your driver's seat. Sprayers will sanitize the buses daily after your AM route, just like last year. You, as the driver, will sanitize the bus after your PM route. Each of you is to sign the booklet when you're done, saying you've sprayed on such and such date. Any bus used for field trips will be sanitized by the assigned driver. If you have coaches and people like that taking your bus for field trips, this is mostly for high school and middle school, make sure that book is getting signed after the trip. And then you use your sign-in sheet afterwards. Schools and transportation, it's all about teamwork. We must work together. Just like last year, it is suggested that drivers wear masks. If a mandate is given, drivers will be required to wear masks. Students will have mandatory seating. Entrance door side, the first 2 passenger seats left open to isolate 6 students as needed. On 84 passenger buses, the first 3 entrance door side passenger seats should be left open. School supports. I will be talking to school administrators this week. As a matter of fact, we have a principals meeting tomorrow, and I will relay this information to them, and I will send it to them in an email. School administrators will hold buses the first day of school for drivers to set up your COVID guidelines. Drivers will need time to assign seats. Mandatory assigned seating, just like last year. This is imperative for the success of our students and drivers this year. Drivers will communicate to all students concerning sanitizing hands as students load the buses AM and PM. Students will wear masks if mandated by the district. Again, it has not been mandated yet, but it may come down. If they do not have a mask, one will be provided. Now, if you just have a student, it has not been mandated, but they would like a mask, go ahead and give them a mask. If they want one each day, I don't care. We have more than enough masks. Give them a mask. Do not engage students over any of these guidelines. Just submit their name to school administrators. Do not make this your fight. It's stuff we have to do as professionals. Do not make this your fight with students. Turn it over to school administrators. Drivers will explain that students cannot move seats when students get off of the bus at a bus stop to maintain sanitation guidelines. In the event a student tests positive and the driver is made aware, they will notify school administrators of the students who sat next to said student. All drivers will complete the checklist after sanitizing bus as per guidelines. We found out last year that oftentimes we didn't know that a student had tested positive, so you didn't know who to turn in. And the same goes this year. It's PHIP. They don't have to let you know. Just know if you're missing a student for 14 days or 10 days, there's a reason why. This is what your sign-in sheet looks like. Just like last year, the sanitizer, the sprayer will sign the AM. You as the driver will do the PM. Any midday trips or other trips that you take, you are to sign, and your mechanic should be signing your bus, signing off, initialing as well. Here's a little video from Nicole King and Jesse McDaniel. They are your Alabama Education Association representatives.
Why should you join the Alabama Education Association? Because AEA values its members. We are member-governed and member-centered. Alabama's teachers, support staff, and administrators are superheroes and should be treated as such. That's why AEA has been serving as their professional organization for more than 120 years. To learn more, visit myaea.org. Once you're a member, enter the portal to explore many of the ways AEA is here to serve you. Professional learning, publications, member discounts, and even legal services. Are you ready to learn more? With the $1 Million Liability Insurance Program, members receive an attorney with paid legal fees and civil proceedings brought against them as an educator. And with further legal assistance, members always have access to attorneys who are experts in education law. All of this is because AEA is an advocate for its members. We are the voice for education in Alabama, and we have a seat at the table when decisions impacting you are made. We care about those decisions and other on-the-job issues and concerns. That's why we assist members with grievances, employment problems, salary negotiations, and training. AEA members gain access to more professional learning where you can earn CEUs and PLUs and access helpful resources for your profession. Our members also save money with access discounts for local and national merchants, discount vision programs, and so much more. AEA is there for you every step of the way. Contact your local director to become a member of the AEA family today.
This year we have 2 mandatory videos that must be seen concerning McKinney-Vento. This is our homelessness law that's in place. So I'm going to click on this. Each one takes approximately, I think, total 10-15 minutes.
Think of all the students in your community. Could any of them be homeless? If so, how are they being supported at school? Homelessness exists in all types of communities in the United States, whether urban, suburban, or rural. Of the more than 1.5 million homeless in the United States, over half are families with children. In fact, you are more likely to be homeless between ages 0 to 5 than any other time of life, and almost half of children in shelters are under 6. Research shows that each time a student changes schools, they lose 4 to 6 months of academic progress, and even one school change during high school reduces the chance of graduation by 50%. The national graduation rate is 64% for students experiencing homelessness, which is 20% less than their homed peers. The lowest graduation rate and the highest dropout rate among any special population group are from homeless students. Consider that the Department of Education estimates that at any given time, about 10% of the students who qualify for the free and reduced meals program are homeless. Homelessness happens. It may be a cliche to say that it could happen to anyone, but think about the many reasons students become homeless. It might be due to lack of affordable housing, eviction, fleeing domestic violence, substance abuse, physical or mental illness, job loss, death of a parent, or other unavoidable event. In some cases, youth have been asked to leave home because they have become pregnant, disclose that they are gay or lesbian, or their parents believe that they are old enough and can care for themselves. Considering this information, it is extremely important to be prepared to support any student who may be experiencing homelessness. This training course will cover basic definitions, some legal rights and services, signs of homelessness, and who to contact if you recognize any signs in the students you see every day. At the end of this training, you'll be ready to help identify and support students experiencing homelessness. The McKinney-Vento Act is a federal law that aims to support students experiencing homelessness. It establishes rights and support for students and families. Once a student is identified as homeless, they can access transportation, educational supports, and referrals to health and housing services. Look at the law as a safety net of rights and services that try to buffer the student from the terrible effects of homelessness. You're part of that net, and everything adds up to success in school. The law also mandates training for staff like you. Anyone working with students, whether a teacher, bus driver, coach, principal, anyone, must be made aware of homelessness and how they can help. So let's get started. First, some terms and definitions. When we say LEA, we usually mean district, but a local education agency can be more than that. If your local community uses the word district, that's fine too. Did you know that every LEA is legally required to have a homeless liaison for students? A homeless liaison could be its own position, but in most districts it's an additional title assigned to a teacher, principal, superintendent, enrollment staffer, or anyone else who has the capacity to do the job. The liaison becomes the district's expert on the rights, services, referrals, and educational success of students experiencing homelessness. They interact directly with students and families to ensure rights. They coordinate with everyone in the school for support. And they even work with community agencies like homeless shelters. In addition to addressing students' basic needs, these resources and connections help ensure the same academic and extracurricular opportunities are available as well. Your local liaison is the person who assigned you this training course. They're the right person to contact if you suspect a student may be homeless. Now that you know who to talk to, let's look at the legal definition of homelessness. A student is considered homeless if they lack a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. If a student doesn't have fixed housing, it means they're sleeping someplace that is not meant for human habitation. An example might be an office building. Lacking regular housing means that they are staying someplace that is not consistent and may change. An example might be staying on a friend's couch or staying in a motel. Being doubled up with another family is considered homeless as well, because even though it may be a fixed, regular, and adequate home, it's not theirs, and there's no guarantee that they'll be welcome there indefinitely. Having inadequate housing means broken utilities or exposure to the environment, like sleeping in basements, garages, tents, someone's backyard, or even general overcrowding due to lack of other accommodations. The spirit of the law comes from the student's daily life. Think about when you were a student, all of the activities and responsibilities, not to mention the pangs of adolescence. Imagine trying to succeed in school while being doubled up with your family in your aunt's living room, or at a shelter across town. Trying to finish homework, maintain a social life, and all of the important parts of growing up are harder when you're homeless. The McKinney-Vento Act attempts to neutralize or mitigate those negative factors by establishing rights and mandating services for students experiencing homelessness. McKinney-Vento also applies to students that are not in the physical custody of a legal parent or guardian. We refer to these students as unaccompanied homeless youth. Another group of students that often qualify as homeless are migratory students, if their living conditions are not fixed, regular, and adequate. Federal law requires students in these situations to get some help overcoming these barriers in order to be successful in school, preschool through graduation. Don't worry about the exact definitions of homelessness. Your liaison will make any decisions about a student's status. Your job is to keep an eye and an ear out for the signs. For instance, if you overhear a student talking about moving in with their aunt and uncle, or sleeping in a garage, or anywhere that isn't fixed, regular, and adequate, you'll know to reach out to your liaison. Here are some other signs of homelessness to be aware of. A student may display signs of poor health and nutrition, like falling asleep in class or hoarding food. Poor hygiene and re-wearing clothes multiple days in a row can be a sign, as can getting on or off at different bus stops during the week. Often these students lack educational continuity in their background, leading to gaps in their abilities. You may witness social and behavioral issues, like poor self-esteem, extreme shyness, difficulty trusting people, or a fear of abandonment. There is a list to reference in the lesson below, as well as in the Materials tab. Now ask yourself again if you might know a student experiencing homelessness. Remember, if you notice signs or have questions, reach out to your local liaison. To wrap up our introduction to students experiencing homelessness, we'll learn about the effects of staying in a shelter and other challenges they face. Academically, students lose 4 to 6 months of educational progress with each school change, and are less likely to be at grade level for reading than their peers who have not changed schools. The professionals who work with special populations of students use the phrase trauma-informed approach, which means accepting that these students may experience traumatic events with long-lasting effects, and remembering that fact when interacting with them and making decisions on their behalf. To raise your awareness of these effects, let's examine some recent data. Homelessness during pregnancy and in the early years is harmful to children's development. Pregnant women experiencing homelessness are less likely to receive adequate prenatal care than housed mothers, and their children are at increased risk for low birth weight, which can negatively affect a child's cognitive, physical, and social-emotional development. Many families experiencing homelessness have also experienced ongoing interpersonal trauma, including community and domestic violence and physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. And homelessness itself can be a traumatic experience. Repeated traumatic events can serve as a barrier for families to participate in services and supports and form trusting relationships. This presents serious risks to children's and parents' functioning and well-being. Children who face an overwhelmingly negative experience or multiple repeated adverse experiences in the absence of sufficient support from a caring adult may experience toxic stress, a prolonged activation of the stress response system characterized by increased heart rate, blood pressure, and stress hormones. This kind of response can disrupt brain development and increase the chances of developmental delays, poor educational performance, and relationship and behavioral difficulties, as well as developing chronic health conditions including diabetes and heart disease. 20 months after staying in an emergency shelter with their families, children scored worse in pre-reading skills and had higher rates of overall behavior problems and early developmental delays compared to national norms for children their age. Over 40% of homeless teens struggle with depression, a rate 15% higher than their housed peers. Homeless teens have a much greater risk of pregnancy than their housed peers as well, at a ratio of 10 to 1. Even the number of asthma attacks is increased due to lack of preventative care. Imagine the day in the life of a student living at a shelter. It's more difficult to maintain hygiene and nutrition when sharing resources with many people. Finding a quiet place to do homework becomes a challenge. Being highly mobile takes a toll on students' physical and mental health, as well as their academic success. That's why there are services and supports provided by schools and community agencies, and that's also why everyone works together to review and revise all school policies. The goal is for students experiencing homelessness to have full and equal opportunity for success in school and enjoy participation in things like clubs and sports. Hopefully these resources and connections allow students struggling with homelessness to focus on the full educational experience, just as their house peers are able to do, rather than just focusing on their basic needs and survival. These reports and other resources are available in the Materials tab of this lesson. Remember, your local liaison is responsible for ensuring the rights and services available to any student designated as homeless. Being homeless means lacking fixed, regular, and adequate housing. Signs of homelessness in students can include behavioral issues, poor sleep and hygiene habits, depression, and others. If you see these signs, talk to your liaison. Keep in mind that being homeless can lead to traumatic events in the students' lives. Approach decisions with empathy and awareness. Visit the Materials tab for more information. It is our job to make it easier for homeless students to be able to focus on their education and to be able to think about how they will achieve their next steps, education, career, and the kind of life we all want for them. Being homeless means a life of chaos, especially for students. School can be a safe, stable place for students experiencing homelessness. It can help to normalize their lives and keep them on a path forward. The McKinney-Vento Act is a law that protects these students and mandates educational rights and services for them. As a whole, the law tries to neutralize the effects of homelessness in many areas: their academic success, any extracurricular and social activities, and their physical, mental, and emotional health. Hopefully, with all of their rights and supports in place, students experiencing homelessness are able to focus on and even enjoy school. Once we ensure their basic needs are met, we can help them reach their goals and achieve their dreams. What do you need to know as transportation staff when it comes to students who are homeless? Let's start with any laws that may be relevant to your job, and then we'll explore how you can help. Identification is the first step to supporting students experiencing homelessness. The law says they're identified by school personnel through outreach and coordination activities, and this training course is the first step. You're now part of an army of awareness that is trained to help your local liaison. Keep your eyes and ears out for the common signs shared in the introduction video. Report any concerns you have to your liaison so they can determine if the student is homeless. Students experiencing homelessness have the right to immediate enrollment and immediate services being provided. Once identified, it should only take a day or two for a student to be enrolled in classes and given any support needed. For example, the office might need the free and reduced lunch form filled out by their parents, but the student shouldn't have to wait to eat. Paperwork can wait, lunch can't. Any barriers to academic or extracurricular activities must be addressed. A barrier could be a lack of medical records when enrolling, no food or lunch money, lack of transportation, or no way to buy school supplies. The law tries to think of everything that is needed for school success. Good grades rely on good nutrition and reliable transportation, so schools are required to provide both. There are a few specific responsibilities for transportation of students experiencing homelessness under the law. First is providing transportation to and from the school of origin, whether the student is staying in the same district or crossing district lines. Second, providing students in homeless situations with transportation services comparable to those provided to other students. And of course, students and families must be informed of these rights. Imagine a student athlete who is also homeless. Whereas a housed teammate can go home and eat dinner before an away game, the student experiencing homelessness will need food and a ride to the event. It's not just about the game or the test or the school dance, it's everything along the way. We want students to participate in their education and focus on their future, not be worried about fulfilling their most basic needs. You might wonder how you can help with something as huge as homelessness, but everyone can do something. Remember that you're part of an army of awareness now, one of the many caring adults keeping their eyes and ears out for signs of homelessness. If you see or hear something from this training course, remember to reach out to your local homeless liaison to report it. We learned about common signs of homelessness in the last lesson, so here are some specific things to remember. Bus drivers should talk to their managers or liaisons about students that are requesting a pickup or a drop-off at an address of a motel or a shelter, students that are showing up at bus stops inappropriately dressed for the weather, students who appear at a new bus stop or no longer appear at a bus stop without having withdrawn from school, students who are now being dropped off and picked up by someone at a bus stop when they used to walk. If a student has already been identified as homeless, report if they have not been at the bus stop arranged for them, so your manager or liaison can follow up with the student and family. Trust your instincts. If you notice any signs, report them to your liaison. They are trained to have confidential and tactful conversations with the student and their family about living situations. Identification is one of the best ways to support your local liaison. You can also help them by cooperating with any data requests they may have, as accurate data means proper funds to support students. Together as a school and district or LEA, you'll examine your policies and procedures to look for any barriers to enrollment or services that might prevent a student experiencing homelessness full access to their education. You can help with this immense task by putting yourself in the shoes of the student. Whether you serve meals, drive buses, coach a sport, or teach classes, Think about the daily lives of your students, and if there is a way to make it easier or better for them in your neck of the woods. Your liaison will appreciate the experienced perspective you bring to the process. You can support students experiencing homelessness in a number of ways. Try to build positive relationships with students. They may share with you the changes in their living situation or other reportable information such as bullying. Inform your director if the school bus route includes a pickup or a drop-off that might reveal that a student is homeless, and request to adjust the route. For example, making a pickup at a shelter or a motel the first stop and the last drop-off so that the other students do not see where that student is currently living. Assist your manager with creative routes that provide quick and economical transportation for homeless students to and from their school of origin. Contact your liaison when you suspect homelessness, and you'll make a big dent in the problem. Empathize with a student experiencing homelessness, and you'll make a big difference in their lives. Imagine the impact we could have on childhood homelessness if everyone works together to identify and support these students.
Oftentimes, you will not even realize that we were transporting a homeless child. Our staff normally works with the county to handle that. We had hundreds of students displaced last year because of Hurricane Sally. So just keep that in mind as we move forward. You may or may not have to deal with those things. Now our often cheered about harassment and training session.
The Baldwin County Board of Education requires all employees to be familiar with and adhere to our policies concerning sexual harassment. In order to maintain a learning and working environment free of sexual harassment, the board strictly prohibits unlawful discrimination in all of its programs, offices, departments, and facilities. Sexual harassment, as defined by law, is a form of unlawful discrimination and will not be tolerated from employees or other persons associated with the board. Sexual harassment consists of unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, and other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature, and any gender-based harassment when the submission to that conduct or communication is made a term or condition, either explicitly or implicitly, of obtaining or retaining employment, or obtaining an education, or when the submission or rejection of that conduct or communication by an individual is used as the basis for decisions affecting that individual's employment of education or other benefit provided by the board, or when such conduct or communication has the purpose or effect of substantially or unreasonably interfering with an individual's work performance or education, or creates an intimidating, hostile, or offensive environment or educational environment. The following may constitute sexual harassment depending on individual circumstances. Verbal harassment or abuse of a sexual nature, including graphic or derogatory comments, the display of sexually suggestive objects or pictures, and sexual propositions. Repeated unwelcome solicitation of sexual activity or sexual contact. Unwelcomed inappropriate sexual touching. Demands for sexual favors accompanied by implied or overt promises of preferential treatment or threats with regard to an individual's employment status or education. Any employee with reason to believe that he or she has been or is being subjected to any form of sexual harassment should report the matter immediately. Under no circumstances will an employee be required to present the complaint to the person who is the subject of the complaint. An employee may choose to submit a sexual harassment complaint to a supervisor for investigation and resolution at the departmental or local level without resorting to formal complaint procedures. If the supervisor is the subject of the complaint, the complaint may be submitted to the superintendent for resolution. If the complaint is not resolved informally to the satisfaction of the complaining employee, the employee must contact the superintendent to initiate formal complaint procedures. The superintendent is responsible for receiving and investigating complaints regarding sexual harassment. The Human Resources Director is an additional official to which formal complaints can be reported. If the superintendent is unavailable or is the subject of the complaint, the Human Resources Director should be contacted regarding the formal complaint. Formal complaint should be made in writing, signed by the complainant, and fully describe the circumstances surrounding the alleged harassment. Harassment complaints that cannot be made in writing should be memorialized by the superintendent or designated alternative official. The superintendent will promptly investigate the complaint, review the results of any investigation with legal counsel or other appropriate officials, make any findings that are supported by the investigation, and recommend appropriate action based on these findings. The complainant will be informed of the outcome of the investigation. A complaining party who is not satisfied with the investigation or resolution of the complaint may request that the superintendent take additional or different action or present the complaint to the board for its review and action. In such case, the board will render a final decision as soon as practicable. To the extent possible, reports of sexual harassment will be kept confidential. However, complete confidentiality cannot be guaranteed. No retaliation or adverse action may be imposed as a result of a good faith complaint or report of sexual harassment. False accusations that are made in bad faith or for improper reasons may result in disciplinary action. Any employee who violates the terms of this policy or who impedes or unreasonably refuses to cooperate with a board investigation regarding allegations of sexual harassment will be subject to appropriate disciplinary action up to and including termination. What if a student reports sexual harassment to you? Students are permitted to report allegations of suspected harassment to any appropriate board administrator, teacher, counselor, or employee, and such persons have a duty to promptly refer such allegations to the superintendent or take such action as may be required by the procedures established under the sexual harassment complaint procedures. Let's work together to keep our schools free from harassment.
Greetings. My name is Scott Wallace. I'm Emergency Management Officer of Baldwin County Emergency Management Agency. It's that time of year again, 2021-22 school season and the 2021 hurricane season. So we appreciate everything that you all do for our county and driving those buses and getting our kids to and from school safely. The reason I'm here today and addressing you today is to talk about our mass evacuation. Many of you have already heard this spiel, so I'll make it as brief as possible. In short, during evacuation, we need bus drivers to help drive buses. The school system has been gracious enough to sign a memorandum of understanding to allow us to use their buses, but those buses are useless without you driving them. If you have signed up to drive buses in the last 2 years, then your paperwork's good unless you've had a change that you've not made us aware of. If you've never signed up, we would like for you to sign up. Now, I'd like to make note that when you drive these buses for us during mass evacuation, you will not be working with the school system, nor will you be working for the Baldwin County EMA or the Baldwin County Commission. You will actually be working for the South Alabama Regional Planning Commission, also known as SARPC. Shannon Rayleigh is our contact there, and her number is 251-706-3639, or you can contact her at 251 263-3907. She will send you some paperwork, or she will meet with you to do some short paperwork. It won't take but a few minutes. It's just so that we'll have your name and your contact information. We'll do direct deposit. We'll ask for a voided check so that we can do a direct deposit into your checking account if we were to need you to drive. So let's talk about for just a minute what it looks like if we need you to drive. About 3 to 4 days before a major hurricane hits, we may decide we need some bus drivers to drive buses to get people to a shelter or out of the county. We will contact you through the school system and ask you to meet at a certain point that we've got pre-designated. Most of them are schools. And you'll pick up residents there and you'll drive them to the designated place, either a shelter within the county or a shelter outside of the county. Now, if you're not interested in driving outside of the county, just please let Shannon know that so she can mark your paperwork that you're not interested in driving outside of the county. You will drive from that pickup point, let's say it's Foley High School, to your destination, which might be the Baldwin County Coliseum in Robertsdale, back to the high school until we have no one else to pick up or until the weather gets to the point that we don't feel safe on being on the roads. We would normally be finished with these complete operations 24 hours prior to the onset of tropical storm force winds. So keep in mind, if you're going to do this, you will need to make sure you've got someone to take care of anything at home that needs to be taken care of as far as preparation ahead of time, or you'll only have a few hours before the storm hits after we finish the driving. Now, after the storm has hit and we're ready to close the shelters, we'll ask you again to come pick people up, take them back to where you got them from, let's say Foley High School, because their car will be there. And then you will continue to do that until the shelters are empty. Some questions that people have asked in the past. Can my spouse or can my child ride with me on the bus? Yes, they can. This is a public transportation, if you will, at the time, so they can ride with you. If you prefer for them to ride with you, that's absolutely acceptable. You get paid straight time, 40 hours, $15 an hour. And then if you go over 40 hours, it'll be double time. It will be time and a half after that. If you drive outside the county, you will be paid from the time you leave your house until the time you get back to your house. So if you stay for 3 days, you will get paid for that whole time, these 72 hours. Again, I want to thank you for your service to the county and being willing to get our kids to and from school safely. And I'm wishing you a blessed 2021-22 school year.
Hey everybody, welcome back. I hope you had an awesome summer, and I just wanted to say hey. So my name is John L. Kelly. For you that do not know me, I am the administrative secretary here in transportation. I've been here for over 20 years, so most of you know me, and if you don't, hey, I'm John L. So welcome back, and I hope you enjoy my tiny presentation. I'm gonna keep it as short as possible. Thanks guys, bye. To get started, we're going to go over our employee work days. These are the days that you are required to be at work. You are a 182-day bus driver, meaning you have to work 182 days out of the school year. Our first work day is August the 9th. Second is August the 10th. You will be in school 175 days. You have to return to work on January the 3rd, which is the day before students return on January the 4th. March the 3rd, March the 4th. You have to come to Bus Driver Symposium on May 25th And then bus driver cleaning, our bus cleaning is May the 26th. DOT expands the drug panel. January 2018, the DOT expanded their drug panel to include opioids, hydrocodone, hydromorphone, oxycodone, and oxymorphone. Basically, what this is we test for more than cocaine and marijuana. So if you receive a call saying that you have been randomly selected, you will immediately go to the place your principal tells you to go. You will have your drug screen, and if you are taking one of the above medications, it is okay. We understand that you do take some of those medications, but you have to take them right. You can't abuse them. So if you do take them, you will receive a telephone call from the medical review officer. We need you to make sure that you answer the telephone and let them see that you are prescribed that medication and it is prescribed to you, and you will send them pictures. I think you have 24 hours to give them the pictures that they asked for, and if you do not reply to them within 24 hours, it will result in a positive drug screen, which may result in disciplinary action. CBD oil. By now we have CBD gummies, CBD vapes, CBD everything. The DOT does not allow bus drivers to use CBD. This will result in a positive drug screen. It will result in a positive marijuana drug screen. So if you are using CBD, I would recommend that you not do that because it will give you a positive marijuana drug screen, and the federal law does not allow you to use that. So you will have disciplinary action. DOT physicals. The Board of Education does pay for your DOT physical. Most of you have a 2-year DOT physical. Some of you have a 1-year. We have 4 locations that you can go get that done at no cost to you. You cannot drive with an expired DOT physical. There is no reason for you to drive with an expired physical. The locations are in the very back of your book. And make sure that you inform the physician of any medications that you are taking, because they will put that into the clearinghouse and it goes into the federal database. Also, if you drive anything other than a school bus and you hold that medical card, you have to turn that into the State Department. It is your responsibility to turn that in. If you only drive a school bus, then you do not have to turn it into the state. All right, in the very last page of your handbook is your salary report. This is very important that we get this filled out correctly. We do not want to include pre and post trip on that. So we're going to conduct this on August the 18th. And we are going to start with our AM start time. This is the time that we pull away from the school. So this person's going to start at 6:15. They pulled back into the school, dropped off all their kids, and ended their route. They pulled into their parking spot at 7:15. So their total AM bus was 1 hour. Our time on bus was 1 hour. In the afternoon, this is the time that the school required them to be in line. So if your school requires you to be in line at 2:50, then you would put 2:50 here. But this school requires this person to be in line at 3 p.m. So this is the time that they start. Their route ended at 4:15. They were on the bus for 1 hour and 15 minutes for a total of 2 hours and 15 minutes. I will put the pre and post trip time of an hour on this, so they will be on their bus for 3 hours and 15 minutes. So this will round up to 4 hours, which is a basic bus route. So if your route was, say, 5 hours and 15 minutes, which would be a 6-hour pay band, and you had a decrease in time, your hours will no longer, your salary will no longer decrease when your hours decrease during the school year. So basically, this year, we have worked with HR to implement a new system where if your hours decrease during the school year, your salary will not go lower, but it could go higher if your hours increase again. So salaries will only change from year to year. So if you're at a 5-hour pay band and it goes down to the 4-hour pay band, your salary does not decrease during that school year. Substitute bus drivers, it is your responsibility to find your own substitute. If you're unable to find that substitute, you can call your local administrator and they can help you. You will find the substitute bus list by going to www.bcbe.org/bus subs. This will be put into the address bar, not the Google search bar. You will not find it there. It has to be put into the address bar. So if you're working from a mobile phone, it may be a little harder to find. But that is where you will find it. It is updated about twice a month. Also, you can work with your route specialist and they can help you. Okay, let's look at the route books. So you will either have a yellow route book or a blue route book depending on if you're a regular driver or a special needs driver. The first thing you're going to do is on page 3, you're going to fill out that information and turn it in, and you can do that towards the end. And that just certifies that we are going to go over this book rather quickly. On page 9 is the first school bus monthly report. This is for the month of August, and we're going to go over how to fill this out. Over the driver name, we want you to print your name or legibly write your name. In the bus number, we would like you to put the bus number that you are driving. And if you're in a sub bus, you can put the correct bus number in the corner or in parentheses. School year is 2021-2022, and your school system is Baldwin County. On the left-hand side, you can see that we serve Bay Minette Middle School and Bay Minette Elementary School. So, so day 1 is going to be August 11th, which is the first day of school. And if you've never filled out this report, the way that this works is Bay Minette Middle School is A, and Bay Minette Elementary School is location B. So school served in the AM, meaning we dropped off 20 children the morning of August 11th at Bay Minette Middle School. And then the morning of August 11th, we dropped off 12 children at Bay Minette Elementary School. And then we're going to make sure that we total it for a total of 32 children that morning on the bus. That afternoon, we are going to pick up 17 children from Bay Minette Middle School, and we're picking up 10 from Bay Minette Elementary School, and we picked up a total of 27 that afternoon. So we want to make sure that we total those numbers every single day. It's very helpful whenever we are calculating things in the office. You will fill out that each day for the entire month. It is a monthly report, so you want to do it once the month is over, you will start your following month. You don't keep going each and every day. On the back side of that is your pre and post trip report. This is a daily morning and afternoon checklist, which is basically making sure that all of the everything on the bus functions. This is a legal report. It can be used in court, so make sure that you are filling this out as you do it. It is not to be filled out beforehand. Also, the back of the book on page 35 is your school vehicle collision report. This should be filled out when you have an accident. There is a front and a back. And then on page 37 is your student roster, and this has to be filled out and turned in with your second month report. If you are tech savvy, you can fill this out on an Excel spreadsheet, but this has to be filled out exactly the same way as it is in this book. This page does not come out of this book. It has to be kept in the book. It can be copied and put in the front of your binder, but it has to be kept inside of this book. I hope you all have a great year, and thank you very much.
I have a lot of memories from when I was a child. One that's always stuck out to me though was when I was about 10 years old and I was in school and I struggled. And I didn't struggle with English, math, or science. I struggled holding still. And I would try to listen and focus and process ideas, but I couldn't help myself. And to be honest, I would sit there and then I would just start tapping. And the students in the class would look at me and they'd say, "Hey, stop tapping." A lot of the time, I didn't even realize I was doing it. And then eventually even the teachers got after me and they would yell at me and they'd say, "Clint, you have to stop tapping." It got so bad that I got sent to the principal's office for tapping. And he said to me, "Okay, maybe when you go back to class, just try sitting on your hands." And so I did. I went back to class, and when I felt myself starting to tap, I did this. I sat on my hands. And that worked for about 5 seconds. One time I was tapping in class, and my teacher, Mr. Jensen, he looked at me and he yelled. And he said, "Clint, stay after class." And I thought to myself, this is it. I am done. Now, I've always been the type of person that believes that a single moment in time can change a person's life. And this was one of those moments for me. And I will never forget it. And so I was sitting there with Mr. Jensen and an empty classroom. And he walked past me and he sat next to his desk and he said, "Clint, come here. I want to talk to you." And as he looked me right in the eye, he said, "Now, I need you to know something. You're not in trouble. But I do have just one question that I have to ask you." And he asked, he said, "Have you ever thought about playing the drums?" And in that moment, Mr. Jensen, he leaned back and he opened the top drawer of his desk. And he reached in and he pulled out my very first pair of drumsticks. And he held them in his hands and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Clint, you're not a problem. I think you're a drummer." And from that moment on, I've never put those sticks down. I've toured, recorded, and played drums all over the world. My whole college education was paid for with drumsticks in my hand. Just because of a single moment in time when somebody believed in me. And he saw something in me that I didn't even see within myself. And from that moment, I learned that there's a difference between being the best in the world and being the best for the world.